Friends, comrades, chaverim, as you'd say in Yiddish, which means friends. It's lovely to see you. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me to this sad but wonderful occasion. The end of the NUT, but the NUT lives on. Yay. Yes, those letters, NUT, they run through my body like rock, because both my parents were in the NUT, that's a few years ago, and I can remember the NUT at the tea table, regularly discussions about something called comprehensive education, which some of us remember, which we know very well about. They fought very hard for comprehensive education and thought they'd won it, and my dad taught in one of the first comprehensive schools. My mum was a primary school teacher, and the next big fight for them was equal pay, also on the agenda these days in a variety of ways. And the NUT fought very hard for equal pay against another union that will go unmentioned, who didn't think that it was a good idea, and the NUT won it. But the government, yes, the NUT won it, yes, let's remember that, yes, NUT, yes indeed. But they didn't win it all in one go. That would be much too much for the government to agree that, that women were equal straight away. It took 7 years for women to become equal, so this was played out at the tea table, because my dad already was getting men's pay, of course, and my mum would open her pay packet and increments would come in each year. And I can very well remember my mother on one occasion, and you can get the year right, she stood there, she flicked open her pay packet and said, "See boys," me and my brother, "see boys, I'm 3/7 of your father." And him sitting there shaking his head, you know, that's right. Over the years, I've been very, very glad, delighted, honoured to have supported NUT rank and file action over such things. And I can see Richard and Susie here working with them, trying to defend the ILEA. Sadly, we didn't win that one, but it was definitely a struggle worth fighting for. We were shot in the back over that one, but we defended the ILEA. There was anti-deportation action, specifically, I remember, in the school William Patton, where we fought to try and save the deportation of children out of the country to Turkey. We tried keeping sixth forms attached to schools. Now, that was quite a curious idea. We fought hard, lost it, and then what do you know? There are sixth forms attached to schools again. But then we know about that in the government, the way they kind of take rabbits out of hats, education action zones and things like that, and then they go, that's going to solve everything, and then suddenly it doesn't. Well, anyway, we fought hard on that, and I fought many times, as many of you will know, on the issue of testing, or should we say over-testing and summative testing, much too much of it, perhaps all of it, who knows, but certainly much too much of it, and fought again with many of you on the issue of reading for pleasure, and you produced a wonderful booklet. Those of you that teach particularly in primary schools, find out that NUT booklet. I think it's probably going to be printed again. It's a wonderful document that was produced by the NUT. And also, let's remind ourselves that rank and file teachers fought hard against what we called the Nazis. Teachers against the Nazis we were. Yes, let's remind ourselves, the Anti-Nazi League, but also there were rank and file members of the NUT, very, very active in that, and fighting over the issue of such things as Holocaust denial, because the two fascist organisations, the National Front and the British National Party, their racism was directed right the way across the board, and we fought them over that. And I seem to remember, at least on one occasion, there was quite a youngish, bearded bloke. See if I can remember his name. That's it, Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn. That's it, I couldn't remember it for a moment. Indeed. So we know there are big struggles ahead. This will be, as you know better than me, on such issues as the academy trusts all going broke and being bailed out by government money and secret funds and funds going where we know not. We've got continuing fighting, again, as you know better than me, on the issues of workload, on the issue of the grammar schools. Only this week we heard that in actual fact, of course, as we know, there is absolutely no advantage, and if anything, a lot of disadvantage for the majority of children, majority of students, anything to do with grammar schools, either leading up to them or actually being at them. They offer no advantage to anybody whatsoever, and yet we know well that the government might pull that out of the bag, and that will be another fight for the NUT, which I'll be more than happy to support. And then, of course, the testing goes on and on. They've even thought of some more testing, baseline testing, times tables testing, testing before tea, after tea, in bed, out of bed, testing you, testing me, testing anybody, and of course, the big fight on school cuts. We have a great big fight ahead, and that will possibly offer us some of the greatest possibilities for unity across teachers, school workers, parents, school students, children. It is an absolute bottom line for us, and we know that it's on this bogus argument to do with austerity, and we can fight that, and we can win that. So we must do that. So I'll be keen and delighted to support you on all that. Remembering the words conveyed to me by my father via his grandfather, or Zayda, as you would say in Yiddish, that when I was quite young, and remember trying to ask my father, what was a trade union? What is this thing, a trade union? And he repeated what his Zayda had told him, which is a union in his accent. Think he was born in 1860 in Poland and had been a member of the Jewish Workers' Union, the Bund, and he'd come to this country and carried on in the workman's circle. So he knew what a union was, and he said, a union is a box of matches. You take one match, you break. 2 matches, you break. 3 matches, you break. The whole box, you don't break. That is a union. So a message there probably from the 1890s. Still as true then as it is now. Still as true now as it was then. I'll finish with a poem for you. First, they said they needed data about the children to find out what they're learning. Then they said they needed data about the children to make sure they're learning. Then the children only learnt what could be turned into data. Then the children became data. Unless we do something about it, comrades.
Hooray! Thank you, Michael, for bringing, as usual, such humanity, wit and intellectual rigour to our struggles, and we really do support, we really are grateful for all the support you've shown us over the years, and it has been enormous, so thank you very much for being with us in our fights. We did ask Angela Rayner to come and speak here today, and she was unable to come, but she has sent a short video.